Armoured Ogre. The Darkspawn scavenged their armour from the deep roads, from lost tiges and from battlefields where vast armies once clashed. Typically only Hurlocks, Shrieks and Genlocks wear any such protection, ogres being far too large for conventional armour. But occasionally the Legion encounters ogres wearing crude patchworks of breastplates and shields threaded together with rope and wire. While better than nothing, there are many vulnerable gaps in the assemblage. Thank the ancestors that the Darkspawn and their ghouls make such lousy craftsmen. From the Journal of Cardol, Legionnaire of the Dead. Blighted Werewolf. When a man in West Hill told me about his encounter with a blighted werewolf, I was inclined to believe him. Although werewolves may be abominations of a sort, wolves possessed by rage demons, or so the story goes, it is true that their bodies still live. The blight is known to corrupt bears and wolves in addition to humans, elves and dwarves, so it is conceivable that any living creature, even a werewolf, is at risk. The man saw the beast ambush a bear, springing from the shadows with such speed that it seemed a blur. The bear was dead within seconds. Thank the Maker that I've never even seen a run-of-the-mill werewolf. I'm sure I never want to encounter one that is blighted. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar by Brother Genetivi. Charred Sylvan. Occasionally, demons attempt to escape the Fade by possessing something other than mortal flesh. By corrupting a tree, for instance, a demon avoids the madness that results from possessing a sentient creature. Demon-possessed trees are known as wild sylvans. On rare occasions, demons possess trees almost completely destroyed by fire, but that still retain a spark of life. This union often rekindles the fire that first damaged the tree, resulting in a sylvan that burns continuously without being destroyed. The Children. The Children appear to be twisted mutations of Darkspawn. They have set even Hurlocks, Genlocks and Ogres to fleeing. The monsters appear first as Childergrubs, gruesome larval creatures that wiggle on the ground. This is the only vulnerable stage of their development. To squish them is to do the world a favour. When grubs devour the flesh of slain Darkspawn, a dramatic change occurs. To a sound of tearing flesh, legs emerge. The Childer can now run down its prey with startling speed. Upon gorging itself again, the Childer transforms further, developing spindly legs tipped with spikes that skewer prey. The Disciples. The Disciples are Darkspawn that have become sapient after some process of awakening, after which they choose their own names. They are cunning, powerful, and hold influence over non-awakened Darkspawn. The Disciples are split into two factions, some serve the Architect and some the Mother. Inferno Golem. It's so much better when it's on fire. Centuries ago, during the Dwarven Empire's Golden Age, dwarves commanded vast armies of golems. Golems guarded the tiges and patrolled every branch of the deep roads. As men of steel and stone, they were eternal, indestructible, and perfectly obedient. But Paragon Hyrule was not satisfied. He wanted Cal Howl's golems to be greater. In his forge, he gave them hearts like furnaces that would burn evermore. Thus became the Inferno Golems, with eyes that burned and veins coursing with molten lava. The Baroness of the Black Marsh. The magic worked. I banished the dragon's essence to the Fade, but the enchantment was imperfect, and the bond between spirit and physical body remained. The beast lay dormant long enough for me to rip her apart and scatter her about the marsh. That should suffice for now. Had the spell failed, I would have perished. What was I thinking, working untried magic on such a powerful beast? Hindsight. So, I saved this soggy cesspit. I don't know what that proves, but these are my lands now, and Orlais must not see me as a failure. From the Journal of the Baroness of the Black Marsh. Tears in the Vale. Studies of the Vale have never been thorough. The Tevinters once theorised that the Vale is thin in places that have seen great bloodshed. As the Chantry is so fond of reminding us, the Magisters of the Imperium only once crossed physically into the Fade, the catastrophe that blackened the Golden City. As the story goes, the ritual consumed a vast quantity of lyrium and the blood of 100 slaves. But was it the deaths that bridged the worlds, or simply the blood and lyrium, or both? Demon sees every opportunity, every tear in the Vale, to enter our world. Once the Vale is torn, it is extremely difficult to mend, some say impossible. From the Lectures of First Enchanter Wenceslas. Pilgrims and Amaranthine. The faithful travel great distances to see the birthplace of Andraste and Denerim, yet many make their pilgrimage longer still by visiting Amaranthine. After all, it was from Amaranthene's port that Mathuroth and his army departed to invade the Tevinter Imperium, and the Chantry of Our Lady Redeemer now stands on the site where Andraste first revealed the Chant of Light. This is why the road that joins Amaranthine to Denerim is known as the Pilgrim's Path, and why the Chantry of Our Lady Redeemer is the wealthiest chantry in all of Ferelden. From Annals of Northern Ferelden by Brother Badine, Chantry Scholar.
A letter from Leliana. Dearest, I hope you are well. Alas, I am unable to come to the keep as I promised. I am so sorry, but the Grand Cleric herself wishes to speak with me. I will tell you all about it once I have had my audience. Is it true that the Darkspawn have not retreated? No matter, I'm sure you have it under control. Wish I could be there, killing Darkspawn besides you. Perhaps you could save some for me. Alright, that was a joke. Do not spare them, that would be silly. You are always in my thoughts. Love, Leliana. P.S. Maybe you could consider growing some roses around your keep. That would make it so much prettier, don't you think?
The Crown and Lion. One Saturnalia long ago, a bevy of bards met in Amaranthine to determine whose songs best stirred emotion and whose stomachs best digested foul brew. The first bard fell, mid-ballad, into his barley soup. The second into the lap of a lass most fair. Some say forfeiture was worth the price. The next could not keep his innards inside. One by one, they succumbed to fatigue, boredom, or insobriety. At the end, no man was left standing. There was only I, the lovely and fair Rosalind, master and mistress of the Crown and Lion, who proved that no man is mightier than the slightest of lasses. From the War of Lions by the bard Rosalind. The port city of Amaranthine. Outside of Ferelden, the city of Amaranthine is now synonymous with the Arling herself, but before the Elysian invasion, it was only a modest fishing village, despite a deep port well suited to commerce. At that time, few of the kingdoms had any need to trade with the Ferelden barbarians. The city changed rapidly when the Elysians came. They built temporary docks to accommodate ships packed with chevaliers, and for a time, Amaranthine was the capital of occupied Ferelden. The Ban of Amaranthine became one of the wealthiest nobles in the kingdom, as goods like wool were leached from the city's swollen ports. During the liberation, the fleeing Elysians looted the city, but left it otherwise unscarred. She recovered quickly. Ironically, Amaranthine's current prosperity is the legacy of Elysian occupation. Do not share that opinion with the locals, mind. From Annals of Northern Ferelden by Brother Badine, Chantry Scholar. The Howes of Amaranthine. The Howes of Amaranthine are one of the oldest noble families in Ferelden. Their lineage traces back to the time of Calenhad, when Elias Howe was one of the first freeholders to follow Calenhad. During the occupation, Arl Tarleton Howe, Rendon Howe's father, threw his lot in with the Elysians. After several bitter battles with rebels, the town of Harper's Ford, an outpost governed by Tarleton Howe, fell to the Cuslans of Highever. Tarleton hanged. Rendon brought the Howe family over to the side of Maric Tyrin and Logain Mactyr's rebellion. Rendon's bravery at the Battle of White River, fighting alongside Bryce Cusland, earned back his family's honour. When King Maric took the throne in Free Ferelden, Rendon Howe was decorated for his service. From Annals of Northern Ferelden by Brother Badine, Chantry Scholar. Drake's Fall. Legends speak of a place where dragons go to die. In the far south, in the lands of the barbarian tribes, it is said that a dragon at the end of her days lies down and allows the bitter cold to take her. It is not just a legend. I have seen Drake's Fall with my own eyes, the ancient bones of these grand beasts piled atop one another. I felt the power that suffused this place and knew the Imperium would claim it. We built a city on the bones. We delved deep into the earth, collecting what remained of the primordial dragons who were so like our old gods. With these bones we created stays for our magisters, armours for our warriors, and crowns for our archons. We fashioned phylacteries to hold our blood, and sarcophagi to hold our bodies, and prayed they would make us immortal. From the writings of Archon Melos. The Fortress of Cal Howl. The Fortress of Cal Howl was established by Paragon Howl, and became known as a centre of learning for smiths. Its workshops are where Paragon Howl conceived his famous improvements to golem resilience and power, and where Horol's favourite student developed a method for storing refined lyrium that is still used today. These breakthroughs brought Cal Howl great prosperity, its passageways glittering with gold and silver. For decades, the Tig was the favoured home of apprentice smiths. Unfortunately, as time wore on, only the richest could afford to train there. When the Darkspawn came, Cal Howl was among the first of the great tigers to fall. Our people still mourn the loss. From the writings of Shaper Ezzerin. The Paragon Howl. Paragon Howl was born a warrior. He excelled at arms and strategy, but was not content. Howl believed he was born outside of the caste system, able to be anything he chose, a warrior, a smith, even a noble. He would not rest until he'd mastered the art of war, the art of smithing, and the art of rule. He was eccentric, maybe even mad. Some said he'd taken too many blows to the head in the provings. Yet Howl accomplished what he set out to do. He trained under the greatest smiths and the greatest warriors, and his achievements in both fields were so great that the Assembly could not help but to make him a paragon. Thus Snowball House Howl was born, from the writings of Shaper Ezzerin. Surfacer Dwarves. Cloudgazer, Stoneblind, Skyer. These are how dwarves describe their surfacer cousins. It's traditional to snort these words with disdain. A dwarf who goes topside forfeits his caste, his house, and the favour of his ancestors. Once he sets foot on the surface, he is no longer welcome in Orzammar. Still, in recent years, a great many dwarves have moved to the surface. Some are casteless and have nothing to lose. Others believe they have something to gain. Some think it's only a matter of time before Orzammar falls to the Darkspawn. Then there are the merchant caste dwarves with their frightful flair for business. I met one who nearly taught me into buying my own hat. I dare say most merchants don't give a nugget about losing their caste or the favour of their ancestors, not the way they're compensated. From Tales Beneath the Earth by Brother Genetivi. The Great Strife. Worn inscriptions deep in the bowels of Vigil's Keep tell of the Avar clan that settled here. With our warriors, unmatched in skill and strength, and here we settled, in the caves carved by the hand of Korth the Mountain Father. Ruadan, shaman of the people, turned from the gods who had ever sheltered him. In his grief he destroyed the gifts of the Mountain Father, and brought us low. And Ruadan pursued her. She fled into the earth and prayed to Korth to preserve her. He sent deliverance. They called themselves the Dwarves, and they protected Keeler. The darkness drove him to madness, but also gave him power. He turned our warriors against us. Vale sought out the Dwarves, and together they bound Ruadan in this place. Remember Kivial. May Ruadan forever be bound here. The First Warden. The nominal leader of our order is the First Warden, but you can expect little assistance or guidance so far from the Anderfels. Even those close to Weisshorps learn to suffer alone. The murmurs are true. The First Warden is often embroiled in the politics of the Anderfels and has little opportunity to consider worldly matters. I would like to believe this a matter of survival, not of political self-interest. Know that your mission is vital. You carry the hopes of our order. If the highest among us holds noble titles outside of the Anderfels, perhaps we will be better situated when the next blight comes, as we all know it must. A confidential report intended for the Warden Commander. Vassals and their liege. Some kingdoms rigidly define the rights of vassals and their duty to their liege. In Ferelden, a relatively new kingdom, the Arls and Arlessers theoretically command their Arlings, bands and lords. In practice, those lessers often zealously maintain their independence. Some Ferelden vassals must be goaded instead of ordered, swayed, not ruled. Vassals owe military obligations to their liege, yet often deny even sworn oaths and sign contracts. In contrast, the vassals expect their liege's protection despite provocation otherwise. A successful Ferelden liege applies force, persuasion and duplicity in equal measure, from a Guide to Statecraft published anonymously. The Vigil. Vigil's Keep is one of the oldest settlements in Ferelden, older than Denerim and Gwaran. The barbarians who battled the Tevinter Imperium chose this location for a fortress so that their warning fires would be visible at a great distance when Tevinter ships neared the coast. The Vigil has seen battle in every major invasion of Ferelden. Tevinters, rival barbarian clans and Orlesians have all held her battlements. The Vigil was the first fortress to fall to the Orlesians and the last to be freed. The cellar beneath Vigil's Keep retains traces of the Avar barbarians. To the Avars, the Vigil was both a fortress and a holy site. The cellars bear monuments to their gods, heroes, and their rare military victories. The Vigil cellars connect to the deep roads far below. Evidence suggests the Avars and Dwarves traded in secret, a breach of promises made to the Tevinter Imperium in the days before the Darkspawn. Anders. Most people enjoy being kicked in the head to be woken up each morning. Me, I'm just so picky. Anders is an apostate mage. He was arrested by Templars who intended to cart him back to the Circle Tower. Vigil's Keep was meant to have been a short stop on their long journey. Unfortunately, the keep was attacked just after the group arrived, and Anders was found standing over the bodies of his captors. Anders insists they were killed by Darkspawn. Regardless, Anders joined Trini to defeat the Darkspawn in Vigil's Keep. Afterwards, Anders was recruited into the Grey Wardens, and he survived the joining. The Warden commander gave Anders a kitten as a gift. Anders stowed the kitten, Sir Pounce-a-Lot, in the folds of his robe. Anders' old friend Nemaya revealed that the Templars had moved the phylacteries for most mages in Ferelden, including Anders, to the city of Amaranthine. But the warehouse where the phylacteries were supposedly stored was actually a Templar trap. Trini stood with Anders against the Templars, for which Anders was grateful. Anders takes great pride in his appearance and enjoys fine things. Anders died when the Darkspawn sacked Vigil's Keep a second time. The Architect. The Architect is a powerful Darkspawn possessed of an intelligence seldom seen in his kind and obsessed with Grey Wardens. He seemed to be conducting strange experiments in the old silverite mines near the Wending Wood, although their purpose was impossible to discern. The Architect is often seen with a dwarven woman at his side. He treats her with great respect, even affection. No one knows her name, nor has heard her speak. The Architect and the Mother seem to be at odds. She is undermining his plan, whatever it is. The Architect finally revealed his plan as the Warden commander was preparing to kill the Mother. The Architect was born with a mind of his own, able to ignore the call of the old gods. He dreams of freeing all Darkspawn from their urge to seek out the old gods, thereby ending the threat of future blights. To awaken other Darkspawn, however, he employs a modified version of the joining using the blood of a Grey Warden. He sent the disciple known as the Withered to Vigil's Keep to propose an alliance, but the Wardens misunderstood the Wither's intentions and attacked. The Warden commander and the Architect agreed that preventing future blights is a noble goal. The Warden commander pledged that the Architect's work could continue after they killed the Mother together. Ogre. Now let's go introduce some Darkspawn arses to my foot. Only polite thing to do. Ogre was once married to Bronca, Orzamar's sole living paragon, but she left him to search for the Anvil of the Void. Ogre took to drink, then accidentally killed another warrior in a drunken proving match. For this mistake, Ogre was stripped of his house and barred from bearing weapons. For a warrior, this was worse than exile. When the Grey Wardens called for aid from the dwarves, Orzamar's throne was contested and only a paragon could settle the dispute. Ogre, hoping to find his wife, offered to guide the party through the deep roads. But Bronca's obsession with the Anvil of the Void had driven her mad. The Wardens helped choose a new king, and Ogre, having lost everything, left with the Wardens. When the blight was ended, Ogre settled down with his old flame Felsi and had a child. But domestic bliss did not last, and so Ogre travelled to Vigil's Keep in the hope of becoming a Warden himself. Ogre survived the joining. His extensive experience in drinking bitter swill likely helped. Felsi arrived at Vigil's Keep demanding to see Ogre. Their conversation ended poorly. Ogre's passion for strong drink hasn't waned. Justice. I have no name, only a virtue to which I aspire. A spirit of justice fought on behalf of the villagers that the Baroness trapped in the Fade. When the Warden commander escaped through a tear in the Vale, justice was dragged along and deposited in the corpse of the Grey Warden Kristoff. The Baroness's defeat left justice trapped in the mortal world. Believing Kristoff's mission to be worthy, he agreed to travel with the Warden commander. Kristoff's wife, Aura, arrived at Vigil's Keep. Upon realising what had become of her husband, she accused Justice of desecrating Kristoff's body. This distressed Justice, who insisted on finding a way to ease Aura's pain. Justice visited Aura again later, promising to avenge her husband's death. This pact gave both of them a measure of peace. Justice likes tokens that remind him of the Fade, as well as items that provide insight into Kristoff's life. Justice likely died in the second siege on Vigil's Keep. Mahari. Allow me to say, I'm very proud to serve under your command. Mahari was a knight in Ferelden's army until agreeing to join the Grey Wardens. She can think of no greater honour, nor better way to serve the nation, and is eager to undertake the joining. Sadly, Mahari's enthusiasm did not save her. She perished in the joining like so many others before her, and was laid to rest as a Grey Warden. Nathaniel Howe. The Howes are pariahs now, those of us left. Nathaniel Howe is the son of the disgraced Earl Rendon Howe and among the last scions of the once great family. He blames the Grey Wardens for his father's death and had intended to assassinate the Warden commander. Upon seeing Vigil's Keep, however, his childhood home, Nathaniel decided to simply reclaim some of the family's treasures. The Wardens caught Nathaniel breaking in. Trinny, impressed to hear that it took 4 Wardens to capture Nathaniel, invoked the right of conscription, making the young Howe a Warden recruit. Nathaniel undertook the joining and survived. In a chance encounter with the Howe's old groundskeeper, Nathaniel learned that his sister, Delilah, had married a shopkeeper in Amaranthine, and Nathaniel was eager to find her. But Delilah was content with a commoner husband, and revealed that their father was exactly the tyrant everyone claimed. In time, Nathaniel Howe came to terms with his sister's choices and his family's legacy. Nathaniel is a sensible fellow who prefers practical gifts over useless trinkets. Sigrun. A wise man once told me never to argue with someone better armed than the entire warrior caste on parade. Sigrun is a member of the Legion of the Dead, warriors exiled from Orzammar and sent on suicide missions against the Darkspawn. The Warden commander found Sigrun fleeing a Darkspawn nest in Cal Howl, the last survivor of her group. She has broken the Legion's oath by not fighting to her death. Sigrun wished to return to Cal Howl to finish what the Legion began, but the Warden commander deemed Sigrun's injuries too grave and sent her on her way. Sigrun met her end fighting Darkspawn at Vigil's Keep, fulfilling her promise to the Legion. Seneschal Vowels. Vowels has spent his life defending Amaranthine. When Rendon Howe was Arl, Vowels briefly became Seneschal of Vigil's Keep, but he repeatedly objected to Howe's orders and was demoted to lower and lower ranks. Nonetheless, he continued to serve with defiance. When Howe's acts turned more and more sinister, Vowels secretly sheltered those in need and used what little power he had to counteract the Owl's atrocities. Soon, Vowels was languishing in the dungeon awaiting execution, but Howe died first. When the Grey Wardens took over Amaranthine, the Order reappointed Vowels as Seneschal. Although Vowels is not a Warden himself, his position as Chief Administrator of the Warden's lands makes him privy to many secrets of the Order, including the joining ritual. This rare honour is a testament to his character. Alas, Seneschal Vowels was killed in the second Darkspawn assault on Vigil's Keep. Leliana. I know a human crime when I see it. I have experienced more than enough of them. Leliana wreaked havoc in the Wending Wood, murdering humans who crossed her path to terrorise the nearby villages into releasing her sister. However, Trinny discovered that the Darkspawn were to blame for Leliana's sister's disappearance. Hoping to rescue her sister, Leliana offered to help the Warden commander destroy the Darkspawn. Leliana was upset to discover that her sister, Sorani, was working willingly with the architect. Leliana pledged herself to the Grey Wardens and survived the joining. An encounter with Leliana's former clanmate Marin revealed that the clan had cast Leliana out and denounced her anti-human crusade. Sorani reappeared as the Grey Wardens were making their way through the Mother's Lair and explained how the architect has convinced her of similarities between the Darkspawn and the Dalish. Sorani's passion may have swayed Leliana's feelings. Leliana is fond of the colour green, as well as items that remind her of her elven culture and nature. Dalen's Journal. The 2nd of Platonists. More southern tigers have fallen. Varentig and Calbarosh are overrun. 4,000 lives lost. The Darkspawn are almost at the gates of Cal Howl. The fortress must be evacuated. The 4th of Platonists. There will be an exodus to Orzammar. Many nobles are appalled, Orzammar being a trade city so close to the surface. They fear losing their stone sense to the surface vapours, a ridiculous notion. But Orzammar is the easiest to defend. The 7th of Platonists. Scouts have sighted the horde. It is vast. To outrun the Darkspawn, the commanders say we must leave now, with nothing beyond bare essentials. The 7th of Platonists Addendum. I have volunteered to remain behind with a contingent of men. We'll hold off the Darkspawn so that others can escape. Ancestors have mercy. The 9th of Platonists. The castless are still here, forgotten in the panic. They are 500 strong. If even half can be inspired to fight, they'll make an army. There is a chance, a small chance, that this will make the difference. The 10th of Platonists. 200 men and women. Ancestors grant that 200 are enough. The 15th of Platonists. The Darkspawn have pushed us back to the inner keep. Only a handful of us survive, but we've held them back for 5 days. We could not have done this without the castless. No, not castless. To call them castless would be a mistake. Their sacrifice must not be forgotten. Records of the Black Marsh. Some years ago, a dragon rampaged through the countryside, gorging herself on animals and people. Before long, she nested near the village of Blackmarsh. Fearing she would drag off villagers to feed her young, we sent men to drive the beast away. The men were never seen again. The new Baroness had till then done little for her people, but she emerged from her manor and told us not to worry. She had been sent from Orlais not just to rule, but to protect. She promised the dragon would be gone by sundown the next day. She set off in the morning, alone. We were certain she'd gone insane. What chance had one woman against a dragon? At sundown there came a loud clap, like thunder, so great it shook the earth. Then our Baroness returned to us, triumphant. Of the dragon there was no sign. The Baroness, no longer aloof, sang and danced with the lowest of us. There were dark whispers that the Baroness was a witch, but we did not care. Her magic had saved us, and for that we loved her. From the records of the village of Blackmarsh. Christoph's journal. Few in town have heard anything about Darkspawn stragglers. I doubted reports myself until a man told me he encountered Darkspawn in the Blackmarsh. Although locals say the marsh is haunted, brave and desperate souls like this man still risk collecting peat. The man said that their leader spoke, but all know Darkspawn cannot talk. More horrifying, he described a monster, a worm with legs. Surely he was mistaken about it following the Darkspawn. I shall leave for the Blackmarsh in the morning. From the Journal of Christoph, Grey Warden. Christoph's note. These Darkspawn act like no pack I've seen, employing misdirection to keep their location secret. When an archdemon leads, Darkspawn are predictable, straightforward, yet these elude even a Grey Warden. I tracked the pack through the Coleraine forest to the edge of the Blackmarsh. The marsh is dangerous, but soon I'll be home, back with Aura. The Wardens can take me from her bed, but never her from my heart. The Canticle of Mathuroth. These verses were carved into statues in the Wending Wood. They appear to be from the Canticle of Mathuroth, which the chantry includes among the dissonant verses, unacknowledged in the Chant of Light. Spite ate away all that was good, kind, and loving, till nothing was left but the spite itself, coiled round my heart like a great worm. And in my darkest hour, I turned from her and vowed that I would destroy her. At the moment of her death, I knew what I had done, and I wept. I shall bring the lands of my fathers to her word. Therein lies their salvation, and mine. And she came to me in a vision, and laid her hand on my heart. Her touch was like fire that did not burn, and by her touch I was made pure again. Despair not, said she, for your betrayal was Maker blessed, and returned me to his side. I am forgiven. The Baroness's secret. The Vale is weak near the stone circle. Perhaps it's my rituals, but I suspect it has always been weak here. I feel traces of old ancient magic. Maybe this is what drew me. I think the girls feel it too. As we approached the circle, they sensed something was wrong. With me? Did they fear me? Something about this place is changing them, claiming them for its own. It is conceivable that by using their blood to reinvigorate me, it traps their soul in the Fade. Perhaps they become the same demons and ghosts and spirits who invade my dreams. No, it doesn't matter. They are nothing. Peasants. While I am a Baroness of Orlais. From the Journal of the Baroness of Blackmarsh. Ancient Vows. There is an inscription in the stone. And so you are defeated, by Avar and Dwarf, bound by the blood of your people, may they hold you here forever. Whatever was imprisoned here scratched a message in the stone. Kivial, nothing will hold me. These walls will rot before I expire. When they do, I shall defame your gods, call your mortal shells to serve me, and hunt down every one of your last kinsmen, Avar and Dwarf. A letter from the Architect. Uther, I know this has tested your patience. You first gave your blood years ago to further our common dream. I know at times it seems like we're going nowhere. Trust me, Uther, I echo your frustration. Vigil's Keep was a setback, yes, but minor. I intend to keep my promise to you. Perhaps you should venture above ground. The greenery and fresh air would do your spirit good. A letter from Aura. Dearest Christoph, my sister and her babe are well. I shall leave Jada as soon as they're settled. Expect me at Vigil's Keep within the month. Ferelden is cold and wet, so make sure your socks are dry before you put them on. I know how it is with men. You can slay 1,000 Darkspawn, but when it comes to clean clothes and dry socks, you're hopeless. I can't wait to see you. Love, Aura. The Architect's Journal. The Seeker collected 2 elves, male and female. The rest died defending their camp. Unfortunate, but a small price to pay. The male has since dashed his head on the wall. Odd. Don't all living beings strive for survival? The Seeker confessed that he did more than simply collect the elves. He found the elves and humans at odds, then exacerbated the conflict by making the humans look responsible for the 2 elves' disappearance. He said he wanted to see how the elf leader would react. Odd again. The female elf has developed a bond of sorts with her guard. Many of the other disciples seem drawn to her as well. The Seeker says her name is Sarani. Perhaps I should speak to her. Maybe she will understand. A miner's letter. Thaddeus, it's too dangerous to work here. Sure, the money's good, but there's been nothing but trouble since we broke into the ruin. The foreman down the shaft, the scaffold on poor Horace. He'd heard voices calling his name. And then the incident with the stew. An eyeball. Something's not right, Thaddeus. Oh, and that carbuncle on my neck is back. I swear it's a Tevinter curse. Half the men have left. I'm leaving today with the next lot. We can find work elsewhere. This isn't the only mine in Ferelden. Carl. The architect's notes. These are scribbled on loose sheets of paper, barely decipherable. What happens if the old gods perish? Does the song die with them? The blood is the key. The blood is always the key. The female elf is accommodating, allowing me to take her blood for my work. Perhaps she thinks I'll release her if she cooperates. My disciples report that another elf is rampaging through the woods, killing humans. Revenge for what we did to her kind. Only she hasn't seen through the Seeker's ruse. We'll keep this from Sarani. If she is upset, she may stop cooperating. Perhaps I should have killed it while it slept. Orders to the militia. Kendall, the caravans can't get through the woods and the village is running low on supplies. It's that Dalish clan causing trouble again, I know it. I had my man speak to their keeper several months back, and she, I think it was a she, you can't tell with these elves, said they'd leave for more remote parts. It looks like they're back, likely their stupid landships blocking the road. They're a stubborn race and more than a little dense. I must trouble you for a favour. Go to the Wending Wood and order them to leave. Mayor Grisby. A list of instructions. Alana, the warriors say we must leave Cal Howl for Orzammar. Here are my things to pack. 1. I need my gowns. If the trunks can't hold them all, leave the old rose one with the pearl buttons. And perhaps the midnight blue. 2. All my jewels. I don't know when we're coming back, so I'd like to have them with me. 3. At least a week's worth of food, including 10 bottles of wine, 10 bottles of ale, and 30 bottles of water from the spring. Orzammar is a dirty city teeming with surfaces and castless. I dread to drink its foul water. 4. The children will need all their toys. 5. And their beds. Make sure they bring the beds. 6. On a second thought, bring ours as well, and at least 3 changes of bedclothes. I don't know where they'll house us. I hear Orzammar's diamond quarter is smaller than House Herol's dining room. Ugh, just thinking about it makes me ill. A letter to Rendon Howe. My Lord Howe, some of the men are not pleased with your plan. They will incite others against you. For the plan to succeed, our forces must be united. If word gets out, if even one of them ignores Cusland, it will be your head on a plate. I say this with all due respect, sir. Your captain, Lowen. Response from Rendon Howe. Lowen, we cannot afford an insurrection. Put any troublemakers in chains. Do whatever it takes to weed them out. Whatever it takes, Lowen. Do not fail me. I'll Rendon Howe. A scout's report. The defences have failed and the golems are lost. The way is clear from the Pillars of Kadash to Cal Howl. The Darkspawn are 3 days from Cal Howl, 4 at the most. Prepare the Tig. A letter from Zevran. Greetings from Antiva. I would prefer to be where you are, my sweet. Antiva is so dull without you to brighten it. Even with the crows trying to hunt me down, this place lacks the excitement of being at your side. Ah well, I expect my guildmaster will agree to meet me soon. Or maybe I should kill him, what do you think? I hear the Darkspawn have still not gone away. They are like house guards who overstay their welcome, no? I am saddened you have to deal with such business without me. I must deal with the crows, but when I return to you, not even sharp razors will be able to separate us. Until then, you remain in my dreams, especially the naughty ones. Yours always, Zed. Carsten Wilde's Last Testament. They came to me for help, these 3 maidens of the Black Marsh. They were young, beautiful, vital, everything she desires. They gave me gold, jewels and family heirlooms. I imagine their mothers and fathers, uncles and brothers pressing those treasures into their hands, enough to ransom a life promised to their Baroness. I agreed to spirit them away from Black Marsh. She learned of it. She appeared the night before. Her eyes were like flat, dull stones. Her hair was stringy and streaked with grey, and I saw why she needed the women. I hid them in my wagon. The youngest embraced me before she crawled between the bales of hay. She said, "Make her bless and watch over you." I drove them to the crossroads where the Baroness's man waited. He took the wagon. Their families never knew. The witch, as good as her word, brought me a chest of gold. She twirled like a little girl, eyes now sparkling. "You've earned every bit, merchant." The gold was no comfort. I saw their faces on each sovereign, heard their voices in the tinkling of the coins. I couldn't bear it. I buried it all in the deepest part of the marsh. Still, I found no peace. There will be no peace for me until I stand before the Maker. Carsten Wilde. Attached is a map to a cache. Darren Lyle's missive. Elmore, I found what we've been looking for. Better even. Stop digging and pack up your gear. I'm heading back to camp. Meet me there. We'll go to Amaranthine, find a buyer, and strike it rich. Darren Lyle. A rolled up note. I hope whoever finds this can read it. I hate the thought that my last words might be used as kindling or make a forbid to wipe someone's bum, but that's happenstance for you, I suppose. My name is Brannan. I was born in Rainsfair. I grew apples once upon a time. When the Elysians came to demand I bow before their emperor, I turned them away. They set fire to my orchards, to my house too, but I didn't care. I stood and watched them burn. Trees die eventually, houses fall, but my honour can only be lost if I let it. They came back a week later and demanded that I swear an oath. This time, when I refused, they clapped me in irons. Now I'm here, and I'll die in this place. It seems a foolish thing to die for, doesn't it? I could have said a few words and rebuilt my home, gone on with my life as if nothing had changed. 100 generations of my family have lived and died on that land, and I won't be the one to trade our family honour for apples. Whoever you are, whatever they brought you here for, if you leave this place, I hope you'll go to Rainsfair. There's no living remnant of us left there, but you'll find my family all the same. We've stamped onto the earth, we're in the wind that rustles the trees. Tell my family how I died, and I promise you, they'll hear. Brannan. Bonnie's angry letter. Corin, is our relationship a joke? Am I a joke to you? What am I supposed to think waking up to this love note? Follow my trail of love, my darling. You are my hen, the mistress of my flock. You nourish my body and tend to my rooster. Really, Corin, I tend to your rooster? That's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You said there was a surprise waiting for me, and I'm supposed to follow your trail? Ugh, I despise you. I abhor you, you petty, ill-made wart. You said last week that everything would be different for us. Well, you were right. I'm leaving, with venom and spite. Bonnie. A Scholar's Journal. The 7th of Cloudreach. Ordered roast boar at the inn. Loved that stuff. I shared the meal with a weary old traveller, newly arrived via the Pilgrim's Path. Told me that he stumbled upon an odd structure of stones in the Wending Wood. He showed me a souvenir he brought back, one of the smaller stones. It looked familiar somehow. The 9th of Cloudreach. I remember where I saw that stone, an old history book in Denham's Chantry. The Tevinters built structures to harness mystical energies. Most have been destroyed, the stones used for construction, yet the traveller claims this one survives. The 10th of Cloudreach. He was at the inn again and sold me the stone. I'm heading to the Wending Wood as soon as I find a caravan, although people seem wary of the place. The 29th of Justinian. Finally found a caravan. Nervous lot though, barely halted to let me out. I found the structure and spent the day studying it. Burned myself on the magical fire several times, but I think I've figured it out. One must make a path of fire that connects all the stones in a single loop. We'll attempt after I drive away whatever creature's making that rustling noise. Materials working for Dragonbone. What a lovely specimen, but Dragonbone is so very hard. I need a diamond, yes, that will do, and a balm of great strength to keep the sword from burning my hands. The liquid from a fresh dragon's egg will also come in handy, I should think. Shouldn't be a problem for you. Oh, and a flame room, Grandmaster caliber. Do hurry. Materials for working with golem shells.
What a day. First, I'll need some wool padding. Working with golem shells can chafe, don't you know? Second, a lyrium potion made by a master to ensure the soul that once inhabited this armour is washed away for good. You wouldn't want that golem coming back, would you? Also, some pure iron. Pure, mind you. No imperfections at all. And a packet of ground blood lotus. Maybe some soup? No. No. Materials for working with heartwood. Those blasted owls didn't write anything down, and the Dalish are positively unfriendly. I could use some oil to make the wood more malleable, some catgut to string the bow, or to make a handle for the shield, and a flawless ruby, always handy and certainly pretty. Oh, and I know, a Grandmaster lightning rune. The Elysian game of Intrigue. I remember Marjolaine had given me clippings from a Ferelden book, a social dissection of Orlais or some such. Orlais presents a veneer of opulence, but the aristocracy are committed to a system of social one-upsmanship they call the game. Sprawling receptions delight friend and foe, while bards strike from shadow with insinuation, larceny, and assassination, often to the strange delight of their targets. Control of these auteur agents is yet another layer of the game. Auteur agent I liked, the rest could not be any more dry. Fereldans truly did not understand my world. And that, of course, was Marjolaine's intent. I had arranged my favourite associates and followed her to Denerim, not for the promise of money, but for the excitement of toying with fools. I was her creature. The Hard Line. I remember. The soldiers called their group the Hard Line, and it was not unearned. They were freeholders sworn to one Harwin Raleigh, a noble who had distinguished himself during the Orlais-Ferelden conflict. But they ended the war in disgrace, and their patron was even denied the return of his title and land. I knew nothing of this at the time. I would come to regret it later. War Journal, revised. I remember, had my younger self cared, I'd have seen that early in the War Journal the Hardline were highly praised, but after their patron's land was lost, they were censured by King Maric directly for brutal treatment of prisoners. Their patron being Harwin Raleigh, whose latest request to forcibly retrieve his territory had been denied. But those were distant problems, and not mine to worry about. Harwin Raleigh's personal journal. I remember, the personal journal of Commander Raleigh was a horrible insight. He boasted of cruelty far beyond the public accounting. He pined for an excuse to attack Orlais, to take back his lost land. It was easy to imagine how clinging to such hatred would poison a man. But I could not have known how this stranger's private war would collide with my love for Marjolaine. Marjolaine. I remember. Marjolaine commanded fear, respect, and a high price. She was Orlesian aristocracy's answer when the next step in a rivalry was to end it. And she was everything I wanted to be. She never spoke of herself, never gave hints of who she was away from the game, but she always seemed to know how to captivate us. She was a mentor, not a leader. She suggested, and others grew wealthy in her shadow. At the time, I only casually noted that Marjolaine's satchel held just the bare essentials for travel. He was barren of anything even remotely sentimental. Sketch. I remember. I met Sketch in Val Royeaux, but he had spent so much of his life hiding amongst immigrants and smugglers he lacked the connection, resentment, and even accent of other city elves. His primary concerns were about persecution as a mage, not an elf. He was not the bardic type, but I suppose the game was more forgiving than the Templars. I remember his books, not unexpected for a mage, but most were mere distractions, the thinnest pulp of history. The only proper mage tome was a volume of philosophy and ethics regarding the manipulation of the summoned creatures, which he owned because it was large. He was slowly covering every page with little preoccupied scribbles, as though the text wasn't even there. Tug. I remember. Tug. Tug was a dwarf with few words for strangers and choice words for friends. He was a strange fit in Orlais, but he never offered a reason for why he left his home. I had accepted his company and friendship, knowing he would share what he wanted to in his own good time. He laughed when I first asked about the silk handkerchiefs. We'd be in some noble's vault, pocketing gems, and Tug would be rummaging the linens. They were his practical luxury, because one can never be sure of toiletries while travelling. He once said, far too loudly, that he'd spoiled himself and lost his callus, but I suspect that may have been for Sketch's blanching reaction. An introduction. I remember a statue of Andraste. There were many in both Orlais and Ferelden, but I'd never held still long enough to really see one. The chant of light would have put my younger self to sleep, but the beauty and strength of that figure offered strange comfort. I was too foolish for revelation, but doubt would bring me back, and there would be no shortage of that. Silas. I remember, Silas Corthwaite was an odd one. He eagerly fell back into the role of soldier. At the time, I assumed he wanted revenge. I would come to see that he was trying to be the example that Rayleigh had spoiled. I'm not sure Silas even realised he was doing it. Eventually, I would feel a sad kinship. Marjolaine had offended my profession in a similar way. Silas had been stripped of everything, so he had nothing personal to show his nature. But there was something special about the way he looked at the trappings of the chantry, especially the candles. He was a stranger there, like me, but as a Ferelden, he was not so far from home. It was important that everything be just right, not because he believed, but because someone believed. I found that charming.